Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, parenting coach, journalist, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist and musician and mother of 3 teenagers, 2 of them are twins.
Do you remember our first, it was one of our first episodes about getting teens to tidy their room?
Yes. I do.
It's actually quite entertaining. If you haven't listened to it, you should, because
it seems such a long time ago.
It's such a long time ago, and some of the responses were very funny.
Yeah.
But since then, I've done huge amounts of research, interviewed various people, finally come to an amazing book called Smart But Scattered Teens. And the reason I'm excited about it is that it sets out its stall as an executive skills program for helping teens reach their potential. Which all sounds a bit like, what?
Yeah.
But I have had real success with workbooks that I bought from Amazon or online before with really deep problems. So I'm quite a fan of getting structured books, but I like structure.
Yes.
I like it when they sort of make it something, if it speaks to me and I think, oh yeah, I can understand that.
Can work through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this one's one of those. So what are executive skills? I've come across the term in reports for kids who need extra support at school. So I just thought, oh, well, they've got an executive skill like problem. And so it just, to me, so to me, it just meant something that, you know, if you've got a neurodivergent child, that there'll be some issues there. Yeah. But actually, we all, to some extent, can suffer from executive skills gaps.
100%.
Yeah. So actually, that's what the thing I went, ding. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Because different parts of the brain do different things, and that's just one part of it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the frontal lobe. Yeah. So it's the thing that we talk about all the time that the teenagers really struggle with. Yes. And the reason it's exciting is because they're skills.
And we can train it.
We can train it. So you're born with the ability to develop them, but do you develop them?
Yes. And it's really affected by stress.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things they talked about, your environment. And if you grow up in a very difficult environment, that's going to, you know, have a massive impact on. And those kids who are in schools where they feel very stressed, they're not going to learn very well and they're not going to be able to develop some of these skills. I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah. And I felt that when I was a teenager, I had a lot of executive skill gaps. Yeah. And my father would yell at me for getting things wrong, which just made it impossible to think.
Yeah, because your nervous system goes into survival immediately, and then that part of your brain actually switches off.
Yes. And I'm saying that because I think a lot of people do that. And it's not just him. I think it was because it's very frustrating. You're like, why don't you do this thing right? Yes.
Or stress of exams or all sorts of things.
Yes. So it's that ability to kind of hold on to work with information, focus your thinking. So we'll go into it and we'll talk about the things that we can do.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested in this one.
Me too. Me too. For me, and actually, in truth, like I said, I had massive executive skill gaps, and it's taken me my whole life to work through a lot of them and I used my New Year's resolution technique, but it would be really nice if my children didn't have to spend their whole life
and it's really amazing, isn't it? Because it's not that long ago that we didn't realise that we could train our brains. Yes. Like we thought that our brains were just, you know, when we hit our, I don't know, early 20s, that was it kind of thing. Done. But we know that you can measure on the brain that, you know, if a 90-year-old takes up a new skill, you can see on the brain that they develop new neural pathways. So we know that we can train our brain like a muscle. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Which is just really, really positive.
It's positive, exciting, and it takes away the shame. Because when you say to your child, it's not that you aren't bright or you're not capable, it's that there's a skill gap and we all struggle with these skill gaps, and here's the gap and let's, you know, work on it. It's
part of the growth mindset.
And it takes all the shame away. Yeah. Right. Let's talk nuggets.
Nuggets. Yes. So my nugget this time is just out of the blue, these things happen, don't they? I was having dinner with 2 of my children, the twins, and it turned into a very honest feedback session.
They can be really painful.
Yeah, they can be, but this was brilliant. It was lovely. It's very safe space we have, the 3 of us. And my daughter started it. I cannot remember how, and it doesn't matter how. But it suddenly became, she was giving feedback to me and to her brother in a really, really honest, kind of unemotional way. Like, you're like this, and I see you like this, and da 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 da. And then we were like, oh, this is interesting. And then we were both like, oh, tell me more, because she's very perceptive. So it was all very, very true. And then we, flipped it over, and I gave her some feedback back, and I gave my son some feedback, and I made it quite positive as well. And it's nice, but they were really interested. We were very honest. I said, like, for example, my son, you don't like, he doesn't like difficult conversations. He doesn't like them. And you will try and make me laugh. You'll try and make a joke. That's his go-to. And he's like, yeah, I do that. Oh, I didn't realize you knew, kind of thing.
That's so funny.
It was really,
you mean someone else has noticed?
Yeah, it was really good. And she then said that me and him were, so this is related a bit to what we're going to talk about today, that me and him are very similar, and we drive her insane because we're both quite scatty and forgetful and lose stuff. And we were both like, oh, okay, that's... Oops. Yeah, thanks. Although she's not. She's super organised. But it was really lovely. I can really recommend it with a light touch and some banter. But you can be really honest if you create a safe space. You can be really honest, and it's really, really useful and interesting.
Yeah, we did actually have a lovely parent who said to me he had been driving his daughter to school, complete silence. Their relationship's rocky. Yeah, and she's quite young, and he said. He thought, I'm either a taxi driver or I'm going to get her to talk. How can I get her to talk? Okay, I'll ask her for some feedback. Yeah. And he said that was really tough. Oh. And so I just wanted to put that in because I think sometimes if the tone hasn't been set right, then it can be very painful. Yeah. And to not take heart when your child says things that are quite wounding, because sometimes they just feel like wounding someone at the time and lashing out. And probably underneath it, they're like, well, actually, you're great, but I don't want to admit that. Yeah,
no, that's a really good point. I think knowing what the intention behind the conversation is crucial. So if the intention is just a light dinner, oh, tell me how you see me, which was what ours was. Which is fun. Which is lovely. I've also had feedback sessions from my eldest, sessions. It sounds like you made an appointment. It was just a conversation. And again, the intention was a sharing, and I knew we were in a good space. So, but you could set the intention, actually, do you know what? We have some issues at the moment. I would like your feedback. I'm aware it might not be what I want to hear, but I think it would be really positive in a growth space. But knowing our intention behind it would be really important. I totally agree.
Yeah. And just that actually... the whole thing's to grow, and we're trying to connect here.
And to take it in the
and that child may not get that that's the whole intention behind it, but it's an amazing thing to do, to give them that space and to listen to it, and then just say, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, as the adult, we can know that that maybe they're not, they're presenting it in a way that isn't particularly sophisticated.
No. And I'm doing this the first time, give me a break.
Yeah. And sorry, you're my guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. My nugget is this. I'm holding up my finger. Oh, it's wrapped up in, I don't know, like a makeshift bandage with a splint. Anyway, I cut my finger washing up, and it was actually really deep. And I just thought, I haven't got time for this. Yes. Because we're busy, right? Yeah. And so I held it up in the air. I did all the things to try and stem the bleeding. It took for a very, 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 very long time. And there were moments when I looked at it and thought, it's still not stopped. Maybe I should see somebody, but no, I haven't got time for that. And I just taped it up and did all the right things. I had a shower. I was in a rush, forgot to cover it. So it was open to the air and, and then it's on a joint. So long story, it got infected. And
Rachel, ouch.
The reason I'm not looking for sympathy, the reason I'm talking about this is because my daughter had said to me, "Mummy, look at your finger. It's massive and it's hot and it's red." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I might get someone to look at it." And I ended up at a walk-in centre, and she said, "Yeah, we would have stitched that if you'd come in. It really should have been stitched up." And she had to give me antibiotics and blah blah blah. And so the reason I'm talking about this is we need to look after ourselves. Yes. And remember to do that. And my daughter was rolling her eyes going, "Mummy, this, you could have lost a finger. It's ridiculous." So there's an element of, I just haven't got time for this, and I'm too busy. But we're not really showing our kids the right thing by doing that. And secondly, I then thought, if my child had done that, I would have said, for God's sake, what is wrong with you? I told you to cleanse it properly, where the right? So we do these stupid things. And then when our kids do them, we just think, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's why it's...
I do these stupid things.
Do
Maybe
what we
not
say,
everybody
not
else.
what we do.
Yes. So your hands up, finger up, damaged finger. You know, we have to kind of look at ourselves and the way we behave before we start complaining to our kids.
100%. But it's so true. I mean, we all do it. I'm sitting here with a burn mark on my hand because I made my daughter a hot water bottle when she was poorly, and I was in bed with her helping her. She really didn't feel very well and wanted a hot water bottle, and I did it in the dark because it was the middle of the night. My eyes hurt if I turned the light on, and poured boiling water all over my hand. You know, and again, she did that. Mom, what are you doing? Why didn't you put ice on it? Yeah, I couldn't find it.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I need to look after you.
Exactly. So it's kind of, it's getting the balance right.
It is.
Put on the oxygen mask before helping anyone else, as they say. Okay, right. Coming back to executive function. Like I said, the thing that excited me about this, executive function, that's a really crap. I mean, it's just not, you can't relate to that, can you? You hear that and it doesn't mean anything.
No, my brain actually switches off.
Mine too. And I think maybe that's why I've missed it all this time.
Executive, I think of someone with a briefcase. And going
I
to
think
the office.
actually that's it. It's that sort of all those skills you need to go to an office and function as a human being. I don't want them. Yeah. Anyway, we're not born with them. We have to develop them.
Yes.
And some people, it's much harder than others. So people who might have really very big issues, big gaps, might be ones who have ADHD, autism, brain injuries. You know, of course, there are people for whom this is a really challenging area. And if they're struggling, you can look at them and say, okay, this might flag up something. If there are big gaps in their executive function. Or you might say, well, you know, give them a break. They've got these issues. Of course, they're going to struggle with that, but we can take tiny steps.
Yeah.
And coming back to a book that I read, which was about why do kids hate school? It was amazing because the guy was saying that the way our brains like problem solving, but we don't like problems that are too hard. So we like doing crosswords. We like doing things when it looks like it's within our reach. If it's too hard, it's frustrating. We don't want to do it. If it's too easy, likewise. Yeah. So we need to find ways of building things that are just hard enough. That's what we're aiming for. Okay.
Which is why kids struggle in school if it's too hard. If it's just too hard for them, they just switch off because it's just horrible. Yes.
And these skills develop through relationships we have, activities they engage in, and the places they live, learn and play. And like you said before, it's if they're in a traumatic environment or it's particularly challenging, it's going to make it harder for them to learn these skills. Whether it's a social relationship they have with their parent that's fraught is going to make it harder.
Much harder.
Yeah. So we do have to be mindful that some of these kids who are in really challenging environments are going to find these skills harder to learn.
Yeah. And why? And if that's the case, then the priority has to be to regulate their nervous system first. Yeah. It has to be because they won't, nothing will go in otherwise.
Yeah, I really like that. And we do need, you know, you see something missing, think, okay, do I need to calm them down first?
Yeah, or to help them to be able to be and regulated doesn't mean necessarily to be calm. It just means to have the ability to
within that window
to rebalance and be in balance.
Yes. And I think what's fascinating about it is that I grew up thinking that people pick these things up. You know, that they will learn them from you. You model them, they learn them. Yeah. Not true, because a small percentage of people will learn them from the people around them. And the majority of us, we need more explicit instruction on how to do these things. Yes. And so one of my daughters who was struggling with remembering to take things, we went through all sorts of little battles. And eventually, you know, she has a checklist. She always uses her checklist now. It's much easier. And I'm still scaffolding it by saying to her, by the way, did you check? And before we leave, just so that she's got that extra little push, but you have to sort of ease off slowly.
Yeah.
And we'll get back into that. So
it's a practice.
It's a practice. So let's talk about what those skills might look like if they're missing. Okay. So the book categorizes executive function skills in certain areas. So they say response inhibition. So is your teen able to hold themselves back if they're in a situation that's a bit upsetting? And obviously we all respond to things, but are they able to hold back a bit, you know, before they jump into something? Or are they finding it really hard not to react instantly? Okay. Working memory. And that's your ability. A working memory, again, is from this other book I read, which is about the way that we think. And the guy said, your working memory is critical to being able to think, because what happens is you take information that you've been given right now, you put it in your working memory, you draw stuff out of your long-term memory, put it together in your working memory, and that's what you're working with. And most of our thinking is just reshuffling stuff that we've come across. So our long-term memory is really important for that, but also having a good working memory is important for that skill. So if you don't have a good working memory, that can be really challenging.
Yes.
Right? Emotional control, again, it's that being able to not explode. So there's the reaction, and then there's the emotional control, just being able to calm your, calm your senses. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's the word. Flexibility. Are you able to switch from one thing to the next? So let's say something went wrong here. Are you going to get completely fixated on that, or are you able to switch and say, oh, I can do this now, or I need to change up? And I've seen that in one of my kids. And they're both different. They both have different things that they've learnt as they've gone along. Sustained attention, being able to really focus for a period of time. And these are all things they could be missing.
Yeah.
Task initiation. Are they really bad at starting tasks? Because we've all been there.
Yeah.
But is this a regular problem that they're presenting with? Planning.
Yes.
How good are they at planning their lives, their day, their week? Organisation. If you look at their desk, is everything messy? Do they know where everything is? Because some people just pile and some people have, but do they have a clue how this works?
Is it organised?
Is it organised? Time management.
Yes.
I know somebody who's an adult who's always turns up late. Yeah. Goal-directed persistence. So actually they say, I really want this. Are they continuing that path towards what it is that they want? And then metacognition, which is the ability to reflect on your own thinking, reflect on your own way. So these are all executive function. So lots of things, right?
That's a lot. That's
huge.
Super interesting to hear that. And I'm like, I resonate with a lot of that. And I'm thinking of two of my children particularly who resonate with a lot of that. I've got the book. You recommended it. I haven't read it yet, but really, really interesting. And some of the things you think, oh no, that bit's okay, and that bit, whoa, yeah, that bit.
Isn't it interesting? Because it will be different for different kids. And like I said, I think the key is we mustn't assume that our teens aren't doing the things we want them to do, or that they should be doing because they don't want to. Because that's kind of what you just think, you're not. And actually, it may be that they don't have the skills because they haven't developed them yet.
Or something is, maybe I was thinking as you were reading out, something's, that are missing, the skills are missing. Or another way of looking at it is what's in the way of them, because maybe it's something that's blocking.
Yes.
And that could be stress or emotional needs, or no confidence in their abilities, things like that. They're actually in the way, aren't they? What's behind it all? But I think the most important thing to start with is recognizing. Yes.
And what I love about what they're saying in this book is that you start off by they have a quiz you can do to identify. I think we could actually identify, like you did with your kids.
Yeah.
Actually, you can identify them in each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, we know.
Maybe we can
Other
do the quiz together. That'd be quite fun.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, that's the point. The point is, as a parent, don't just force your teenager or ask your teenager to do it. Say, I'm going to do it too.
And then go, oh, I'm way worse than you. Right, let's start.
Yes. No, but also what's really interesting is they said often the flashpoints in a family happen where you've got one person with a very high level of aptitude in one area, like the skill is very good. For example, let's go back to tidying your room. You've got someone who's naturally extremely tidy, my mother-in-law, and then you've got a child who is incredibly messy, and they cannot understand.
No.
Like the really tidy person can't understand why the messy person would struggle with this at all. And the messy person can't understand why it's so easy if they're interested in doing it in the first place.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
And that becomes a bit of a flashpoint.
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
So I think what they say is we need to, the most important goal is first of all, try and establish what's missing and what's the priority. Because it might be a few things. Yeah. Don't talk about the few things, find the one thing that's really causing the biggest problems. Yeah, and just focus on the one thing that they want to work on, where they go, actually, I think that is an issue. The most important thing is to keep them on the court, like you don't want to get them pissed off so they disappear. They go, I don't want to do this anymore.
No.
So you're always trying to get them so that we can keep working on this particular skill.
Yeah, so doing it together is a really good way of doing it, isn't it? Holding each other accountable, maybe.
And what we need to do is we need to provide just enough support for them to be successful. So coming back to the way we like, when we like a challenge, we like it when we can just do it right. And I read this piece about the psychology of positivity and how you need 3 pieces of positive feedback to feel really good. And when things are very hard. So, and the example I've got is the easy read system that I used to teach my dyslexic daughter how to read, because she was really struggling with reading. It was extraordinary. And to start with, I just thought, it's not working. This is rubbish. I just, because I paid this money and she's not learning and she doesn't want to do it. And I messaged them and said, yeah, I'm sorry, it's not really working. And they said, tell you what we want to do is we're going to have someone else sit in the virtual room with you and listen to you working with her. So I said, fine, okay. And we did it. And then afterwards she said, right, I'm just going to tell you, you clearly haven't read your notes carefully enough and you're not implementing what we've told you. And I said, so, well, what was that? And she said, you need to, after every second or third word, say, wow, yes, great, excellent, love that. Positive feedback all the way through.
Yeah.
And I've had that again. I learned it from that.
Yeah.
It works a dream.
Amazing.
And then I implemented that in another sport that my child was really struggling with.
Yeah.
And I just went behind her and kept saying, that's great. I love that. I love that. And she flew.
Amazing. That's so interesting.
It's really powerful.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I've been helping one of my kids with revising and I was doing that and he told me to stop.
I've had that too. Yes.
He said, that's not helping. It's just annoying.
Yes.
But then on the day he was actually struggling, really struggling and panicking because there was an exam in a few hours and he felt he didn't know it enough and he did, but he was worried. I consciously praised everything he remembered and actually I could see the switch in him. So maybe it's you have to time it.
I think it's when they're struggling.
Yeah.
So I had that with my first daughter when she was learning to read. And quite quickly she said, can you just not say anything? Because you're distracting me. I'm really enjoying this. And I was like, okay. And by the way, can I just read on my own? I don't want to. And I think it's when they're struggling because what you're trying to do is overcome that internal voice that's saying you can't do this.
Yes.
Right, the chimp, because coming back to the chimp paradox, there's a chimp and the chimp is the thing that's going to say, you don't want to do that. That's really hard. You're not enjoying this. And you've got to drown that chimp out saying, you're great. This is great. Right?
Yeah, that was really clear. When he was struggling, it helped. And when he wasn't, it was just be quiet, Mum. That's annoying.
Yes. So getting buy-in. How do you get your kid into the court? So you identify the problem or the thing you'd like to work on and explain why you are concerned and what the future impact might be. So separate it from who they are. Just say this thing is a skill that if we just focus on this skill, it could really help with this. But if we don't, then it could cause these issues.
Yeah. And they're usually very aware, really, aren't they? I mean, one of my kids I'm thinking of, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, is wants to go to sixth form college and is going to sixth form college. The school he's at, he will probably do better at, in inverted commas, because he would, probably achieve more. But he said, no, I want to go to the one that's less nurturing and more hands-off because I'm really fed up with not having these skills. I don't like it. I don't like being disorganized. I don't like not remembering stuff. So I want to learn.
Interesting. So he's identified. He's ripe.
Yeah,
that kid wants.
I
to
know.
be in that
so
court.
I'm like, we've been doing some stuff, and I'm really similar to him. So I've got the book, and I'm thinking we're going to do this together.
Do it together, which is even more of an incentive. What a great thing to do! And actually, I love that. That if we can find something where we could both improve together, that's it's a nice connector.
Yeah,
what we were talking
it's a really good connector.
Yeah, and the don'ts. Don't point out the reasons why the problem-solving approach of your teen won't work and how your solution is better.
Okay.
Don't do the kick. There's the kiss-kick behaviour, which is where you say, oh, I love that you tidied up your room. Look, it looks so good. I told you that if you put your mind to it, you could do it. That's a pleasant. That's a salty sweet, isn't it? Or a sweet salt.
Yeah, and I told nobody needs to hear. I told you so.
But we all do this sometimes. Yeah. I've spoken to so many parents who won't go, yeah.
See, that wasn't so hard, was it? See.
And then they just think, well, you saying that makes me never want to do anything for you again. So yes, just keep your mouth, hear yourself saying it and go, don't say it, mouth shut.
How would you say?
Don't compare with peers or siblings, and don't approach a problem from a position of anger or criticism, all the classic things, but it's just the don't, stuff. Focus on how the desired changes are going to boost their independence, because think about how teenagers, that's what they really want. What teenagers want is they want to feel like they're adults and they can get to choose everything and they want in their life and be free. That's what they think adulthood is. I've got news for you. But so the carrot is, if we can work on this, you're going to be much, just think of it. Like when I was learning how to sell, you learn, and the benefit to you, Mr. Jones, is. So you just say, you could and the benefit to you is more freedom or more. So think about what it is that they want.
I imagine it's a loop, isn't it? It becomes a loop because the better we are at doing these little, which they can be really little things and little habits that we need to change, the more confidence we trust ourselves. It's like I don't know if any of you know the amazing, the holistic psychologist, Dr. Nicole LePera. She's all over social media. She's absolutely incredible. Look her up. And one of her things, one of her brilliant things is, promising things to yourself gives you self-confidence. Even if it's just drinking a glass of water every day. If you do that every day for a couple of weeks, you will then trust yourself to do that. And that accumulates. And builds. So if you can learn these executive function things, and they will give you confidence that you're more capable, that you're more able, and that will have a ripple effect and inspire you to do more. And then it will also take away the stress of not being able to do it. And stress affects our executive function. So again, that's promoting more flow in that system as well.
Which comes back to why I love the taking stock thing, where you say, so you've achieved all of these things, because I think quite often our negative bias and the way teenagers think is, I can't do this, I can't do it. If you actually say, look at what you managed to do, and they start off with that in their head, and you go, well, clearly you could do that. So what else can we do? Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. And they really understand the idea of negative bias. I've used that recently with both my kids, and said, you're after an exam, they come out and go, it was okay, but I'm not sure. And then 4 days later, I think I did really badly. Whoa, hang on, that's your negative bias.
Yes, I love that.
That's your negative bias kicking in. And because they know what that means, they go, oh, okay. I said, when you came out of the exam, you said this, and now you're saying this. Can you see what's happening? It's really, and they understand all of that. Really
and I love your point about how it can be a really positive spiral of self-fulfillment, because I think that's what's happened to me. I think from being a teenager and struggling with so many things and having to really start from scratch, I learned techniques for taking it slowly and just focusing on one thing a year that I got better at. And it's turned me into a kind of getting better junkie, where I think, look what I managed to achieve. What else can I do? Amazing. And it's a lovely feeling.
It is. I used to poo-poo the little tweak thing like years ago, like, but I want the big effect. I don't want to bother with all of the little stuff. But it is the little stuff. And it accumulates. A big part of it is it gives us self-confidence that we are able, we're capable.
Yes. And that gives you agency to carry on.
Exactly.
So they break behavioral style into 5 types in terms of I'm not going to do the whole book. You have to buy the book if you want it. But I just thought it was really good to highlight this and get a head around this stuff.
Give us the potted version, Rachel.
So the types of kids, the types of response you might get. See if you've got these kids.
Oh, yes.
Right. Number 1 would say, I know I have a problem. Can you take care of it for me?
Oh.
Right. We've seen those kids.
Yeah.
And I will go back over it and mention how you deal with these kids, because some are easier than others. Number 2, I know I have a problem. I'm open to working with someone of my own choosing.
Yeah.
Number 3, I admit that I'm having a problem. Can I get something as a reward for working on it?
Oh, interesting.
Number 4, I guess I'm having a problem. I'd like to try and handle it myself. And number 5, I don't think I have a problem, but I'll take care of it if I have.
Okay, we don't want number 5.
That's the worst. That's the hardest one to deal with. Okay, so
it's maybe also on a time thing as well, isn't it? Maybe that's where you start and then you get more aware.
Yes. So number 1, quite a hard one to deal with. Let someone else, can you take care of it for me? They say solicit problem solving strategies and get them to try those strategies alone. Like you say, what do you think would be a good solution? And handhold them in the sense that you walk them through how they can come up with a solution, but make them do it, right? It's hard because often those kids have had somebody who's been, we have a tendency to be the prefrontal cortex for our kids.
Yes.
Right? We do this, particularly if we're helicoptering or bulldozing.
Yes.
We're trying to do it for them, and we need to somehow hand that power over. The one which is, I'll work with someone I choose. Fine. Let them find a direction, the person.
As long as it's not a fob off.
It's not a fob off. No, because you can come back again. Well, that doesn't work, does it? And the reward, some kids are really focused on that.
Yeah.
Offer them something that they want. Because most parents will go, well, why have I got to give you a reward? The reward is having
the rewards are brilliant. I've done that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a money reward. It can be, but it can be something where you just know that your child really cares about this. Fine, okay. What is the reward you want? Let's negotiate it.
Makes it more exciting.
But get in the room with them. If they're going to be reward oriented, fine. And like to try and handle it myself. Negotiate specific performance standards. So if they say, I'm going to handle it, you go, okay, let's talk about the performance standards and then I'll let you do it. All right. So that in that they don't reach it, then you can say, well, you haven't. So let's go back in it again. And the final one, which is, I don't think I've got a problem. These kids are usually very confrontational and quite difficult to manage. What they say in this is use grandma's law, which I'd never heard of before, which is a first this, then that. So first eat your vegetables, then you get your pudding.
Okay.
So it's the kind of first do your homework, then you can do the fun stuff. Yeah. And they said that's one of the best ways of working with someone like that, where they're just really like, I don't have a problem. You say, fine, okay. So we'll just hold back the fun stuff until you've done the thing you need to get done.
And then hope that
that
they're on board enough to do that, because they might just tell you to get lost.
Yeah, but then that's a connection problem, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So go back and try and fix that connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they say that, obviously this is a massive topic. If your relationship, it's dependent on you having a decent relationship with your teen. Yes. So again, let's work on that. But if that's not really working, you can ask from, you can try and get a coach if you can afford it, who can do some of this, because that's what they would do. They would coach them through it.
I'm also thinking that, especially for the last category, but maybe for all of them, there can be a lot of shame involved in some of these topics, because it can feel really embarrassing, and embarrassment and shame are not the same thing, but they overlap. But the idea, if they're always late, if they're always disorganized, if they're seen in a particular way, then some of them can feel a lot of shame around that. So it might feel really uncomfortable to delve into it. So that's maybe.
But that's why I love this, because from reading this, it's given me all the language I need to take all the shame away from it and say, do you know what? It's just a skill that, some people find it easy. Some people find it harder, but it's a skill.
Yes.
It's just a skill they've learned, and you're equally capable of learning it. So let's try and fix, because you've got all sorts of other things you've been learning, and this one's fallen by the wayside. Let's try and fix it now.
Yeah, no, I really like that.
A nice, easy, non-confrontational. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just let's try and work on this skill. Practice the skill and start small and work our way up. Start small so that you can get that positive feedback. Yes. And Ken Rabo said, if they stumble, you can't be, oh, for God's sake. You've got to be, oh, well, let's go back. Let's try again.
Try again tomorrow. Yeah.
Perfect.
Brilliant. No, I like that.
I like it too.
I'm going to go and read the book now.
Yeah, honestly, I love the book. I am not getting paid for this. I have in fact, I asked one of the ladies who wrote it, to come on the show. She was absolutely lovely, emailed me back straight away, and she said, you know what, because the book was written in 2013, so she's not trying to market it. And she said, I'm trying to pull back from everything. So I just said, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'll just talk about it anyway.
Yeah, you've done a great.
I've sold it.
You have.
I've sold it.
Well, you already had. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah. That's the next thing. So, those books on the shelf?
They
don't go in by osmosis.
Damn it.
You don't put them under your pillow.
Can I not do that?
No, it's a shame. Anyway, if you found this helpful, please send it to at least one person. Talk to everybody about it. I went out with a friend last night to a sort of presentation at Farrow and Ball, because she's a designer sort of person, and she told everybody in the room that she was speaking to, Rachel's podcast. I was just like, I love you. You're so
Can I have
great.
some paint?
Thank you. I did. I got a little sample pot. It was very kind of them.
I was just thinking, on the the topic of this, for accountability, and, you know, maybe I should, I'm definitely going to read the book, but maybe I can try it out, because I think it was going to really help, and then we can do a follow-up.
I think we should do a follow-up, because I'm doing
accountable
that too.
to it as
yes.
well. Yeah.
And that's actually something that I'm going to be working on over the summer holidays. That's my kind of, you know, let's not have lots of things to work on. Let's just try and find the things that really will make a big difference. Back to the sign off. Susie, how can people contact you?
Oh, they can contact me on my website, which is www.amindful-life.co.uk. I had to really think about that. My executive function has died.
You're just tired, darling. You're just tired. And also LinkedIn, Instagram, all those things.
Yeah, I'm on there. But you can find all the links on the website.
Yeah. The main website, www.teenagersuntangled.com. You can leave a review there, or on Apple Podcasts. Please follow the show. And you can contact me on teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. I do read everything. I don't necessarily answer people who want to sell somebody onto the show. So I'm sorry if I haven't got time for that. But anyway, that's it for now.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.